I cannot take credit for these verses, if not for Ben Lesser, his persistence to forewarn the world, like one shouting from the rooftop, Zachor, remember. No, I cannot take credit for this literature. No, I am merely the delivery boy of a real-life story that needs to be told, that must be heard. Indeed, my words fall short. He is among the few that is left from the class of 45, and dare I say, a dying breed of living witnesses and surviving sufferers of the Holocaust. By the time I came into this world, Ben Lesser's life had already changed the world. By 11 years old, Ben Lesser saw what none of us should ever see. By 18 years old, Ben Lesser had already lived a lifetime, from Nazi nightmare to American dream.
Dear parents, I only had 14 years with you, but in the almost 86 years that have followed, I am never without you. I hope I have lived my life in a manner that honors you and would make you proud, a life that matters. Until we meet again, I remember Zachor. Rest in peace, your loving son, Banish.
I'm the president and CEO of Jewish Nevada, and Jewish Nevada is Nevada's federation, Jewish Federation, and our mission is to build and sustain vibrant Jewish life and to take care of those in need.
I am the general manager of the King David Memorial Chapel and Cemetery. We opened up this property in 2001, and we're part of the Palm Mortuary and Cemetery Market of Las Vegas. And I've been an employee for the company for almost 32 years.
First of all, I'm a master's of Holocaust and Genocide Studies, and I'm certified to teach teachers professional learning through the Sperling Kronberg Mack Holocaust Resource Center. I have a foundation called Nevada Center for Humanity, where we use lessons of the Holocaust and we try to empower young people through stories from rescue during the Holocaust to be upstanders today.
So the ADL is an anti-hate organization. Our mission is to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and secure justice and fair treatment for all. And we know that we can't fight one form of hate, such as anti-Semitism, without being an ally in fighting all forms of hate and bigotry. So, every day in and day out, we work within communities, being a voice of standing up and speaking up against hate and bias and bigotry.
I first started in Holocaust education in Los Angeles, working for the Simon Wiesenthal Center Museum of Tolerance. My role here is as the library director of the Sperling Kronberg Mack Holocaust Resource Center, and also the educational specialist for the Nevada Governor's Advisory Council on education relating to the Holocaust.
If you look back through what I went through, you realize that it was a group of choices. If I had chosen the wrong choice, it would have meant certain death. And that's when I realized that life is the sum of choices. And I'm convinced that people have to choose. They have these possibilities to make choices. A lot of people in simple life don't realize this. They just go along with living a life that has no meaning. But no, there is a purpose in life. You have to find the purpose. Everyone has a calling, a purpose, a reason to make a success in life. Or else you can just give up and fate will find you and you will die.
My grandfather, Ben, first started speaking about his experiences in the Holocaust when I was in 5th grade. He came and spoke to my class. It was something that I invited him to do, not knowing much about what that experience was going to be like or what the details of the story were going to be. But most of all, I really didn't know that it was going to be the beginning of this new chapter of my grandfather's life that has led to him dedicating all of his energies to sharing and protecting the memory of the Holocaust.
My father has such strength and will. Now he is 94 and he is more active than ever. He's working, he's researching, he's getting new information about what he could teach next to students about living a life that matters. Not only does he tell students his story, he tells students that they have choices in life. And with their choices, they could really live a life that matters.
I picked up this book to read, and in the middle of the book, my last name is Pohl, and in the middle of the book, I ran into the administrator of the concentration camps, and his name was Pohl. And I was horrified by that, absolutely horrified by that. It was something that I needed to like ask him about if it was okay that he was dealing with me because of my last name. And he said, whatever you're doing, whatever this relative did, it's okay because you're doing something different.
Regrettably, sadly, the Holocaust happened. It happened to Ben Lesser and to his entire immediate family, as it happened to countless millions of families fragmented by indifference and hate. Only that Ben Lesser lived to tell his story. How he lived and why he lived will never be answered, fully appreciated, and understood in this lifetime. But at 95 years old, Ben Lesser insists on living, to defy the Nazis and to honor their victims, in order that we might never forget what Ben Lesser remembers.
When cattle car train arrived into Birkenau, which is part of Auschwitz, they opened up the gate and all hell broke loose. I saw barracks and I saw these chimneys with flames shooting out of them, smoke, ashes are flying all over. You hear scream in all kind of languages. Raus, schnell, don't pick up any of your belongings. Leave everything where it is. Women and children to the right and man to the left. And I'm holding on to my sister Goldie and my little brother Tuli, and we're just being pulled apart, never to see each other again. So I made one choice. I was 15 and a half. I wasn't a man yet, and I wasn't a child either. I could have gone with either one of them, but I let them go because I figured I see barracks, and if this is a labor camp, they want you to labor. And if I'm older, if I labor, they'll feed me better. Well, that was miracle one, because had I gone with my sister, my little brother, I would have gone to the gas chambers, because considering children, they didn't have anything to do with them. They sent them to be killed. And I went with my uncle and my cousin, and we lined up in the row, and we were waiting to come ahead, and we see a man in a white frock standing there, and he's holding white gloves, and he is going with his index finger, right, left, right, left, right, left. And every once in a while he would ask a question. When I came close enough to him, I heard him ask a young man a question. Kannst du 5 kilometers laufen? Can you run 5 kilometers? Or would you rather go by truck? He said he would rather go by truck. He had a bad knee. Poor soul, not realizing that meant certain death, they sent him to the right. But it didn't make sense to me. Again, we talk about choices. Why would he ask such a question? I can see the barracks are here. I figured he's testing us to see if we're strong enough to work. So I tell my uncle, my cousin, I said, let me go first. I spoke German. So I went first, and I saluted him. I stretched myself out on tiptoed, stretched myself out, said, 18 Jahre alt, gesund und arbeitsfähig. I'm 18 years old, I'm healthy, and I can work. He asked me, kannst du 5 kilometers laufen? Can you run 5 kilometers? I said, jawohl. And he sent me to the left. Well, my uncle and my cousin both followed.
One thing I learned from my grandfather that I have tried to pass along to my children is to have that real sense of clarity of purpose. That it's important not just to live, but to live with purpose and to live a life that matters. To think about your role in your community, at your work, among your friends and your family, and try to be really excellent at those things. Not just excellent in order to be successful, but excellent in order to be valuable to the people around you.
If we can teach every person that even as simple, as ordinary as they might be, they have the power to stop that lunchroom bully. They have the power to befriend the handicapped kid or to stand up and not turn the other cheek that so many people did during the Holocaust. And that's where I find the most power. Many survivors don't want to go down that avenue. They don't want to revisit these stories. And I don't besmirch them for that. Or maybe they can't speak anymore. Maybe they just don't want to, or they're seeing the world kind of go backpedal. They're seeing too many flashbacks now. So we have to really give it up for a Ben Lesser who's going to go to his last breath teaching young people. I mean, what an inspiration. I'm a big fan.
All of these people had unimaginable stories, unimaginable tragedies that they faced, and yet they came through it, and they managed to live lives, make a difference in the world, share their stories, have children, have grandchildren, and some even have great-grandchildren, and imbue them with the desire to live life, to enjoy life, and to give something back.
I believe that God led my way. He made sure that I choose the right one. Because there were at least a dozen miracles during the Holocaust years, that life-threatening choices, and I survived them. And every choice could have been made wrong without even realizing it's wrong. But you have to analyze these choices. They were life-threatening choices. And somehow I was able to pick the right way, the right choices. they led us into a big auditorium, and they ordered everybody, get undressed, get out of your shoes, and walk up to the line of barbers. They're going to cut your hair, then you go into the showers. Well, I got undressed, but I had diamonds in the heels of my black shoes. And my uncle, who gave me the diamonds, and his son, they all had diamonds in their shoes, but they got out of their shoes because they ordered us, get out of your shoes. Well, I walk up to the barbers, picture this, naked, just wearing these black shoes, and no one said a word. They cut my hair. They weren't exactly gentle the way they were cutting. Clipped them all over my body. And then they sent me to the bathhouse. The guards were walking back and forth and looking at us, and it's like they were blinded. They didn't see my shoes. That was a miracle, because had they seen it, they would have shot me to show an example. You disobeyed an order. And I went into the showers with my shoes. I took a shower. They gave us the striped clothes, you know, and I took my black shoes with the diamonds and I put them in my back, under my arms, and we walked out. And after 2 weeks, they put us into trucks and they took us to labor camp. The labor camps that we went in was a rock quarry. As they dynamited the mountain and the boulders were coming down, it was our job with sledgehammers to break down these break down these boulders into manageable pieces, throw them into mining carts, run it down the hill to grinding machines where they made gravel out of it, push the carts back up. It was back-breaking work. I was afraid my uncle is never gonna survive this. So I bribed the chef in the kitchen. He was an inmate who lived in the same barrack. I mean, he slept in the same barrack as we did. So I bribed him with the diamonds in my shoes to give my uncle a job in the kitchen. He took my diamonds and he did give him a job in the kitchen. It got easier on us because he was able to eat in the kitchen, and they searched his pocket. He couldn't get out with any food, but then he took his ration and he could share it with his son and me, you know. So it got easier a little bit.
As soon as he opened his mouth and started speaking, the students were enthralled. It was really amazing to see them. And then at the end, they all shook his hand and they were so respectful and so reverent towards him. And I could tell that it made a huge impact.
And it's amazing how when they hear about it in my class, they're like, oh, you mean this is really true?
I still am in contact with most of my kids on Facebook, and they tell me every day about the lessons that they teach their own kids, and the things that they say to their own kids that they know that they either got from Ben, or they got from me, or they got through me from Ben. It's just a constant. It's just something that will keep him alive forever. And if I can do that, that's so important to me.
Afterwards, the next day, I had them write thank you letters to Mr. Lesser. The letters that I received from them were just incredible.
I see the Zahor pin every day. I just have to hold it, touch it, and your story stays with me. It's almost as if all of those stories of everyone that was murdered are held within that tiny pin, begging to be told.
He told of lives and losses, swallowing the saltwater tears that threatened to spill over the edge, telling his story with a magical that kept even the most of us still. He knew something was happening, something was changing as the man in front of us brought out what he had previously been just text on the page to life.
He was strong, he was brave, he dared to live with no regrets about who he was. And he was a hero. No, he is a hero. Thank you, Ben Lesser. Thank you for everything. You are truly inspirational.
I learned that words filled with hate can change a nation. The Holocaust was caused by hateful words. I made a promise that I will not say anything hateful.
Many who commit crimes blame their deprived childhoods. But Ben's childhood was also deprived. He came to America, no skills, no money, and not speaking the language. Yet he made a success with his life, and so can I.
You inspired me to really know what a man was, and that was to act strongly for his family.
Your love story with soulmate Jean touches our hearts, and your success as a professional businessman touches our minds. Hearts and minds together. We embrace you, Ben.
Ben and all the other survivors that are speaking in schools are empowering these young people with this firsthand knowledge. There is no replacement for this power.
It's also a very critical time in the world with our current state of affairs to make sure that we're pushing forward in increasing Holocaust education in our school district and throughout the world.
We need to constantly have a means to be able to educate generation after generation what happened to make sure it doesn't happen again.
You can listen to testimony, recorded testimony. You can listen to second generation and third generation survivors. And pretty soon that's what we'll be left with. And that'll be very good. But while we have survivors and we can have this gift, it's so powerful.
There's a lot of opportunity for us to strengthen what's being provided to our students, an opportunity to see things like the Resource Center or Holocaust museums around the country and to enhance their education so that they can really visually see it instead of reading it in a textbook.
One of the first things that we're doing is recording as many stories as we possibly can, but that's not enough. So the Shoah Foundation is establishing a new technology, an AI technology, and I know that Ben has an AI story file as well on his website, and that is very effective because people feel like they're actually talking to a survivor when they're sitting there and they can ask any question and have it answered. Ben can't be everywhere, even though he tries to be everywhere. And this is one way that students can feel that they're actually interfacing with him directly and ask their questions.
It's a great tool for teachers and students. Would you like to ask a question?
How do you live a life that matters?
Living a life that matters to me means that don't do anything that could be misinterpreted as hate. Respect other people and do the right things. Have a normal life. Love your family. Support your family. That's a life that matters. It was hell on earth. They had crazy gimmicks and crazy games. I can't even remember all of them. One of them was when you came out in the morning, you had to line up in rows of fives, and one of them would yell, Mütze abnehmen, head down. When you took down the hat, you had to make a sound like this. And if the sound was a little second late, they wanted to know who was late. Sometimes they would pull out anybody, whether it was him or not, and kill him just to show an example. And we say, met ze opnemen, you have, all they wanted to hear is one clap. Crazy games like that, just to torture us. And every day when he came back from work in the evening, you had to line up in the yard in rows of fives. And they would count you, and then they would dismiss you. You would go for your ration, and you would go into your barrack, right? This one night we came back, and we lined up in rows of fives. They're counting us, and they're counting, and they're counting. And suddenly, the commandant comes down with his Fräulein, his girlfriend. And he says, "Ha! I'm gonna teach these pig dogs a lesson they'll never forget." What happened? 3 inmates escaped. He ordered his henchmen to pull out every 10th person in line to receive 25 lashes. And as they're pulling out every 10th person in line, I can see my uncle is going to be 10. He was in front of me. So I push him behind me, and I took his place. They took all of us number 10 in the middle of the yard, and they brought down stakes, hardwood stakes, 1 by 1 inch, 2.5 feet long, and they brought down a sawhorse. And this is what they ordered us to do. Tiptoe in front of the sawhorse, tiptoe. Bend over the sawhorse, but your stomach cannot touch the 2x4 on top. Your heel cannot touch the ground. You tiptoe. One man was holding you, pulling your trousers tight. The other one started to hit, and you had to count out loud. If you miscounted, you start from 1 again. If your heel touches the ground, you start from 1 again. If your stomach touches the 2x4, you start from 1 again. I was number 4. There were 3 men in front of me. The first man goes up, tiptoes, bends over. Every time they hit him, you see a line of blood coming through the trousers. As they hit him, he starts to count, 1, 2, 3. Anyway, his heel touched the ground, he started again. He miscounted, start again, and again. Finally, he falls down. When he falls down, the commandant goes over, pulls out the revolver, and shoots him. His Fräulein goes over to him, gives him a hug and a kiss, like he just performed a heroic act. He killed a man. Number 2 went up, same way. No, impossible. He miscounted. He touched the ground. They touched the 2x4. He fell. The commandant goes over, kicks him in the face. Get up. He couldn't. He shoots him. So we have 2 dead bodies. Number 3 goes up. Number 3 was a little younger. And he also miscounted. And they start again and again, and it's almost impossible. He yells out, "Please have mercy on me. Don't kill me." The commandant looks at him. He says, "Come over here and face me." He stands up. He walks over toward him, and his knees gave out. And he falls. The minute he falls, pulls out the revolver and shoots him. The next person is Ben Lesser. Next in line. Tiptoe, bending over without touching the 2x4. One man is pulling my trousers, and I say to myself, Ben, this is it. If you want to live another 15 minutes, you better do exactly what you're told. No mistakes. And I remember counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And every time there's blood, my skin being torn apart. Finally, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, I screamed out, I made it. 25, I made it. No one believed that anyone could survive this. The man who was holding my trousers, pulling my trousers, says, go over and thank the commandant. So I stand up, blood is running down my legs. I walk over him, salute him, Danke schön, Herr Kommandant. When he hears that, he puts his arm around my shirt collar, twists me around facing the number 10s who are still to be beaten. And he says, now I told you it could be done. If you do it like this, Junge, if you do it like this, young one, you have nothing to worry about. While this is going on, there's a commotion at the gate. They caught those 3 inmates who escaped. When the commandant saw that, just like a child who gets sick of a toy and throws it away, he tells us number 10s to go back to our original lines. He orders his henchmen to bring down a portable gallows, and we all had to watch while they were hanging each one individually. You couldn't recognize them, bloody black and blue, they beat them to hell. They pulled them in. I remember the third one as they put the noose around him. And he yelled out, Shema Yisrael, which is a Hebrew prayer. It's only 6 words before you die, if you can. When they heard it, they kicked the stool out from under him. They wouldn't let him complete the last 2 words.
My grandfather was a survivor of Auschwitz, and I don't speak about it a great deal because my grandfather never spoke about it. And I often say that there are 2 kinds of survivors. He was very fortunate to survive, but the atrocities of the Holocaust were far too great for him to speak about and to recount. And then there are people like Ben who make it their life's mission to speak about and to educate about the Holocaust. And I just have so much admiration for him and the incredible work that he's doing.
I heard of a speaker who talks about the Holocaust. Now, I'm Jewish. My mother lost 5 brothers and sisters in the Holocaust, and so I know of the hardship and how my mother grieved for many years over not being able to save more for siblings. And I read his book, and I was so amazed and infatuated with this man, and I got to be friends with him. So I wanted to help Ben and see if I could do something for him. And of course, all the work I've done with Ben, I always considered a labor of love, because when I think what he sacrificed in life, had a childhood that is unbelievable. nothing but horror, losing his family. And then for 45 years, when he tells the story, and you can't help but admire the fact that Ben has committed his family, and they are happy to do it. And Ben absolutely could shock everyone with how all he expresses is love when he had so much reason to express hate.
Love your neighbor like yourself. That tells you all. You should appreciate your neighbor, you should learn from your neighbor, you appreciate their feelings, their culture, and you live together like human beings. We are all human beings, we all have different cultures, and we can learn from each other.
Even to this day, there are atrocities that are taking place all over the world. It reinforced how important education happens to be, and is one of the things that I take so much pride in what we've developed here. We need to constantly have a means to be able to educate generation after generation what happened, to make sure it doesn't happen again.
It's so valuable for the kids to hear it from the Holocaust survivors' perspective. So there's one thing to read it in a book, or to see it in pictures, or to see it in a video, but to hear someone's perspective and the life they lived through their own eyes and their own voice, that's authentic, and it's so powerful to hear his story. And I think that's what my students always told me. They knew that history happened, but they really understood it when Ben would come talk to them.
I spoke there several years, and one year I come in, and the teacher leads me into the hallway, and I see a bench, a brand new bench, with the label on top, Ben's bench. So I asked her, what is that? So she explained to me. They told all the kids in the school, anyone has a problem of any kind, just go to that bench, sit there. The first teacher coming by will know they have to counsel you. They'll ask you, why are you here? And the kid will explain the reason, whether it's bullying or something else. And they said it worked miracles. These kids who are being bullied between themselves or whatever, they had a problem, they sat down there and the teacher would counsel them and everything was good again.
He had a huge impact on students. They still, again, they said it was interesting to learn about the Holocaust, but it was so much more meaningful to hear your story, your personal story, your firsthand account. That's how powerful a speaker he is that he's still able to make such a huge impact on students to this day.
A young lady asked me after I got through speaking, what this meant. What does the Horpen mean? And I explained to them, it means remember the Holocaust. There was a Holocaust. Would you like to have one of those pins? She says, really? Yes. She held it in her hands like it was something holy. She says, Mr. Lesser, I'll cherish this pin for the rest of my life. And if I ever have children of my own and they find this pin in my jewelry box or in a drawer, and they ask me, what is the meaning of this pin? I'm going to tell them, it means remember the Holocaust. There was a Holocaust, and I listened to a survivor of the Holocaust. This, to me, made a big impression. Of course, from that point on, I went out and I manufactured Zahor pins, and we gave them out by the thousands, now over 1 million. The idea is we would love to give out 6 million to compensate for the 6 million silenced voices. It's so very important.
Ben Lesser is a voice that fights against evil. Ben Lesser is a man who, when so many others were not able to share their story because it was so difficult, he stood up and he said, we will not allow this to be forgotten. I am putting a face to this hatred. I am going to educate those, that next generation, and we are going to make sure that never again truly means never again. And when he says living a life that matters, he has done that, and he has shared his experience, he has shared his story, and he has humanized so many people to be able to understand the atrocities that took place during the Holocaust. And I am forever grateful that he continues to educate that next generation.
And then one night we heard cannon fire. The front was closing in. And that morning we reported to go to work. There is a loudspeaker saying, nobody works today, the camp is being evacuated. Line up in rows of fives and march out. Now my uncle was already in the kitchen. We couldn't say goodbye to him. We never saw him again. And my cousin and I, holding each other, we marched out. It was 460 kilometers from Dürnhau to Buchenwald. It was another miracle. How did I survive this? 7 weeks? Don't ask me how I survived 7 weeks of that march. I mean, I remember the last week, my shoes fell apart, and we were now marching barefooted in the snow for a whole week. And we had to keep up with the soldiers. If you slowed down, they shot you. We didn't know day from night. We were like zombies, just walking. When we arrived to Buchenwald, they said you have to be in the same spot at 7 a.m. because Buchenwald is also being evacuated. And they counted us and they marched us out of Buchenwald. A few hundred yards out, we see cattle cars lined up. And they counted us 82 cattle cars, and they ordered us to march in, to get in. I pushed my cousin up and I says, find a spot against the wall, because I remember going to Auschwitz and with people all around me, it was terrible. We need a place where we can rest your back against the wall. And 2 hours later, they opened them up and they threw in 80 breads, a loaf of bread for every person. Those people who were next to the door were grabbing 3 or 4 breads. And those of us against the wall, we had nothing. We don't know where we're going, for how long we're gonna be gone. We had to get a bread, and my cousin was too weak. So I started to climb over the sitting inmates to see if I can reach the door to wrestle out a bread from somebody who had several of them. And while I'm climbing, I feel a stab right here. I feel my mouth is filling up with blood, but I can't stop. I have to get a bread. I keep climbing, and I wrestle out a bread from somebody who had a bunch of them, put in my back pocket, and I went back to my cousin. He says, Ben, what's happening to you? You're bleeding. I put my finger here and went right through my tongue. To this day, I still have a mark, if you can see, on my chin bone. That was in the middle of my throat, but now that I filled up, it's over my chin bone. I tore a piece of my trousers and I put a bandage around me. That bread I had in my pocket, and I rationed it the size of a half an egg for each of us in the middle of the night when no one can see us. Because if they knew we had bread, they would kill us. 1 week, 2 weeks, we ran out of the bread. No food, no water. 3 weeks, we arrived at a place called Dachau. Everybody around me is dead. And they opened up the gate. They ordered whoever can walk out, walk through the tracks into the gate of Dachau. Well, out of the 80 in my cattle car, out of the 80, only 4 of us walked out. My cousin, I, and 2 other people. The rest, everybody is dead. Now, out of the 7,000 people, only 18 of us walked out alive in Dachau. The rest of them were all dead. I don't know how I survived this. This was another miracle. And coming into Dachau, I remember we see a mountain full of dead bodies, as high as you can see. And they put me and my cousin in one of the barracks next to these bodies. We lay there 1 day, 2 days. At the end of 2 days, we hear, Befreiung, Befreiung, Americans, liberation, liberation. What? I tell my cousin, come on, let's go out and see what's going on. We come out and we see the inmates are crawling on their hands and knees and kissing the boots of the American GIs. They were like angels. They liberated us. While I'm standing there, 2 American GIs walk up to me and my cousin, and they had a can of Spam in their hand. So they opened up a can of Spam and they handed it to us. And it smelled so good. We made a mistake. We ate some of it. And both of us came down with dysentery. My cousin dies in my arm the night of liberation. And I talk to him, I keep talking to him. And then they saw me, they came, they pulled him away. I follow 5 or 6 steps and my knees gave out and I fell. I passed out. 2.5 months later, I woke up in St. Tertullian, a monastery in Bavaria.
Ben Lesser was liberated from Dachau concentration camp in Upper Bavaria, southern Germany. He is among the few that is left from the class of 45 who lived through the horrors of the Holocaust and found the courage to tell and retell his story, history, and to return to a place he wished never existed and a time he wished never happened.
We were in Auschwitz together as a family. My father took all of us. My dad's health was not the greatest. I mean, he was 91 years old, but there was nothing that was going to keep him from going. There was just nothing that was going to keep him. On the way there, we were sitting together, and during that airplane ride, just joking back and forth, my dad says to me, he puts his hand on me and he says to me, Gail, no matter what happens, don't let me die in Auschwitz. Now for us, sitting there talking together, it was a little bit of a giggle, but on the other hand, it hit so hard in my heart, and I said, Dad, don't worry, no matter what, that will never happen. But the visit to Auschwitz was really quite incredible. It just brought us closer, being able to experience this together. My husband, Michael, who's not alive anymore, he passed from multiple sclerosis 4 years ago. My husband was in a wheelchair at the time, and there's so much walking. Upstairs in one of the buildings is where they have very powerful exhibit at the museum. My husband said that I'm going to go up, and I said, no, honey, it's too hard. Don't go up. We'll go take a look, and we'll come back down. And he says, no, I'm going to go up the stairs. And if Ben could bring us all here to Auschwitz and for everything that he's gone through, I want to go up the stairs. And my father came to Michael, held onto his other arm, and helped him slowly up each stair. And they talked about, my father said, if you could do this and bring yourself up to this museum in your condition, it's an honor for me to have you do this. So the two of them walked through it arm in arm. It was one of the magical moments in my life. My two incredible, powerful men that I looked up to my husband very much, and I look up to my father very much. And it was one of the most touching moments of my life. I'll never forget, we went to visit the cemetery, and it was such a beautiful sight. My dad said Kaddish, and he talked to his parents, and it was so beautiful and so touching as he spoke to his parents and told them how proud they would be of their great-great-grandchildren and how many little babies have been born into the family and how well all the families are doing and thriving. And he promised his parents that they will never be forgotten. When I hear my father say that, I have to make sure that it's never going to be forgotten. These people did not die in vain. And my dad survived, and my Auntie Lola survived to be able to have this family live on.
If we do not have museums, if we don't have memorials, if we don't have a means to be able to educate, the next generation will never know about it. You know, when we first started thinking about this project, we did have a little friction and a concern about having it built on a cemetery grounds. If you think about it, what a better place to come and memorialize. People come to cemeteries and they remember their loved ones. They remember their mothers, their fathers, their grandfathers. What a better place to come and memorialize the millions of people that died in the Holocaust. So what we have here is a Reform section, a Conservative section, and an Orthodox section. That left the center. What were we going to do? And one of our colleagues came up with an idea of giving a gift back to this community. Why don't we build a central spot that could be embraced by the entire Jewish community or the entire Jewish world? The architect that designed this was brilliant. He has put several educational components together that really separate this, I think, from almost any other memorial. The first thing that you look at is, before you even walk into the plaza, are 6 plaques. And each of these plaques have the name, the place, the dates, and the amount of people that died. These walls, yes, they look destroyed. That's intentional. That depicts the destruction of human life. It depicts the destruction of the buildings that took place by the Nazis. One of our rabbis 30 days before we dedicated this came back from Poland, and he was able to bring back baggies of soil from each of these camps. So when you walk into this plaza, you're actually walking over the soil of people that were exterminated and lost their lives. When you walk in here, one of the most fascinating things that I learned is about the little plaques that are inside our plaza here. Each of these plaques represent a country that had a concentration camp. Who would have thought that the Channel Islands had a concentration camp? Who thought that Finland, Belgium, Netherlands, Morocco had concentration camps? It's an educational piece. It allows rabbis, it allows teachers, it allows members of the Holocaust Resource Center to come out here with groups of people and really spend a lot of time and study and learn about the Holocaust. It may be a small plaza, but there's so much material that you can learn out here.
The Holocaust is not political. Anti-Semitism, hatred, bigotry, it's not political. It's not about the left or the right. It's about how do we stand up and make sure that these stories are told and never forgotten. Because the moment we start to say that the Holocaust is political, right, it gives people, it feeds into the idea of Holocaust denial and Holocaust distortion. We know the Holocaust took place, and people denying it or distorting it is anti-Semitic.
We allocate dollars every year to support the great work that's happening in our community. And one of the allocations over the last several years that we've made is to the Zachor Foundation to support Ben's work because, we are not a social service agency. I am not a Holocaust educator, but I want to, and we do provide support to the people who make those things possible, who are enhancing those pieces of important aspects of our community.
Ben and all the other survivors that are speaking in schools are empowering these young people with this firsthand knowledge. There is no replacement for this power. Elie Wiesel says, if you listen to a witness, you then become a witness. So while we have survivors and we can have this gift, it's so powerful.
As a daughter of a Holocaust survivor or a child of a Holocaust survivor, I have a responsibility to carry on my father's story. He survived to be able to tell his story. And it's my duty and my children's duty and my grandchildren's duty to continue to keep that story alive for generations to come.
The thing about teaching is that you hope that the words that you say resonate with somebody enough that they tell their own kids. And if they tell their own kids, then those kids will tell their kids. But the best part of that is, long after your name is no longer associated with that, you're still passing that information down. And so that's why I work so hard to make sure that they know his message, that they know his lessons, because long after Ben's no longer associated with that information, the kindness, forgiveness, love that he talks about in the face of all the evil that he dealt with is more powerful than anything I could teach them.
Choices are everything, because that's all we have, right? You get a chance to say yes or no, and what you say yes to matters as well as what you say no to. So whether it's something small like the choices I make with my food intake, or something big like, I choose to stand up for this. I choose to use my voice to say no more. I choose to use my thoughts and my thoughts and my actions to say, you know what? I'm going to stand up for this. What you're doing is wrong, whether it's bullying or racism, things that are of malintent. It's your choice, and you should choose to do the right thing.
This is what I experienced. My whole survival method was a whole group of choices. It's not just a matter of choices during the Holocaust years. Even afterwards, my God, I I came to America without nothing. No money, no family, no friends, no language. And I said to myself, Ben, this is a wonderful country, America. You're gonna make success here. What success? What did I know? I didn't even know what the word success meant. But I worked hard. And believe me, I worked very hard. And then my life turned around and I made a success of myself and my family. I had a wonderful marriage for 72 years. My wonderful wife, Jean. She passed away last April, by the way. 72 years. And I realized that life is the sum of choices. While individuals can't always choose what happens to them, but whether it's a crisis or calamity, people can choose to either let it ruin their lives or learn from it and move forward. It's essential to understand the consequences of personal choices. It's possible to let tragedy or trauma become a reason to stop living. But it's also possible to live through extreme circumstances and commit to a life that has meaning, a life that matters.
At one time, it was on survivors to tell and teach the world what happened and what we must do to prevent it from ever happening again. Today, it is on us, you and me, to tell and teach the world what happened and what we must do to prevent it from ever happening again. Today, it is on us to promote values, to prevent violence, and to protect the future from history's faults and failings. May we take to heart the remembrances of Ben Lesser's times as a forewarning in our present time, so as not to be off guard this time, as so many were in that time. Shalom.
I could write a letter to the world, I'd say I'm sorry for the damage that we've done. We bleed the same, hearts beat the same, so why can't we just be the same? And we don't have to leave out anyone. If I could send a message to the world, I'd say I can't believe how far we've fallen down. When people stand in silence, just ignoring all the violence, then maybe now it's time that we speak out. Hello, hey, it's time to say goodbye. Take the darkness and step into the light. 'Cause when we all come together and decide that we will never ever hate again, then love will be stronger in the end. If I could write a letter to the world, I'd say what makes us different makes us who we are. And if we love the same, we cry the same, can we find forgiveness, lose the blame? When did finding heroes get so hard? Hello, hey, it's time to say goodbye. Take the darkness and step into the light. 'Cause when we all come together and decide that we will never ever hate again, then love will be stronger in the end. I'd say I'm sorry for the damage that we've done. So if we bleed the same, hearts beat the same, then why can't we just be the same? If I could send a message to the world, if I could write a letter to the world.